Is One For All cursed? Are its previous users as heroic as they seem? Or is there something more menacing going on? And what is the big secret behind the fourth user's demise? Let's find all of this out and more in the newest chapter of My Hero Academia. So My Hero Academia Chapter 304 is finally out, and with it comes Deku's long-awaited talk with One For All's previous users. And oh boy, is this a big one! In this chapter, we get to learn a bit more about One For All's fourth user. We learn the big secret All Might chose to hide about his debt, and we find out the true, terrifying implications inheriting One For All really brings. So buckle up folks, it's a One For All centered chapter. But before I begin talking about this chapter, I'm first going to go into a quick summary of what happened last time. In the last chapter, Hawks and Best Jeanist were about to enter Endeavor's hospital room looking for information on Dabi from Papa Flame himself. But they got a lot more than they bargained for as they happened to eavesdrop on the Todoroki family discussing the terrifying tale of the death of Toya Todoroki and Dabi's origin story. After they finished listening in, Hawks and Jeanist entered the room and they discussed the current state of the My Hero world with Endeavor. But not before we got this adorable shot of Hawks. Look how adorable he is! In their conversation, the heroes discussed the chaos of the current hero world, the aim of the government and their desperate requests of foreign heroes, but most importantly, we got the solution to all of these problems. The unification of Japan's top 3 heroes. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, Hawks, Jeanist and Endeavor are working together. Let's go Team Chicken Hot Pants. The name is a work in progress. After this, Team Flaming Bird Jeans, begin to work on Endeavor's statement for the public after Dabi's accusations. But there is one question that stumps even Hawks. What is One For All? Endeavor, putting 2 and 2 together, realizes that it has something to do with Deku. And Chapter 303 ends with All Might hunched over Deku's recovering body stating that young Midoriya is currently talking with the previous users of One For All. And this is where Chapter 304 picks up. This chapter opens up directly where the last chapter left off, with All Might hunching over Midoriya's recovering body. However, this time All Might mentions that he can feel the presence of One For All inside Midoriya, but it's barely noticeable. It then cuts to inside Midoriya's consciousness, where Midoriya is currently thinking about the well-being of the allies that fought alongside him against Shigaraki. It really is a testament to Midoriya's heroic nature. Even when he is on the verge of death, his only thoughts are about the well-being of others. However, these thoughts are abruptly interrupted as we are brought to the key destination of this chapter, inside One For All. Now, we have got a few glimpses of One For All before, but nothing like this. Rather than being in an endless void, the inside of One For All now has taken the form of a room with 8 tall chairs positioned in a semicircle, each belonging to one of the quirk's previous users. Within this domain, all of the previous users themselves are present and are in a corporeal form. Now, there is a lot to break down from this scene alone. Firstly, while there are 8 chairs present, only 6 of them are currently being occupied by their respective user, as for some strange reason, the second and third user are off in the background facing the wall. Now, the identity of these 2 users has always been a mystery, as every time their vestiges did make an appearance, they were silhouetted out in some shape or form. Initially, I thought this was for nothing more than to add intrigue for these characters to make them seem more interesting, but from this panel alone, it makes me think that the real reason they have been hidden is because they actually aren't heroes. All of the users we see sitting in the chairs, we know are heroes, and each of them have tried to help Deku in some way, like this scene here where they are all reaching out to him, but the second and third users have never helped. You can even see here they are the only ones not reaching out their hands. Could it be possible that these 2 users were actually villains, and as a result they don't want to help Deku because he is a hero? I mean, even by just looking at their positions in this scene, it's like they are a child on timeout being forced to look at the wall as a punishment. A punishment they received as a result of doing bad things. But let me know what you think of these 2 users. Could they be villains? Or is there something much bigger going on? Also, I want to point out that there is a theory that these 2 users are Bakugo and Kirishima from the future. And this guy sure looks like he's wearing Bakugo's grenade gauntlets. But anyway, back to the scene. Banjo and the rest of the One For All users sitting down tell a partially corporeal Deku that they need to talk. The first user explains that One For All's power has increased exponentially over the past few months, and as a result of this, the essence of all the previous users have also gotten stronger, allowing them to interact with one another. But it wasn't until Shigaraki and One For All invaded the quirk that they were much more easily able to communicate with Deku. Now the reason behind this could be something connecting One For All and All For One, or it could just be One For All's defense mechanism, ensuring its own safety. After telling Deku this, the fourth user stands up, looking scary as hell might I mention, and tells Deku that he is the one who needs to talk. His horrifying demeanor quickly changes and he kindly introduces himself as Toshinori Yagi. Shinomori then goes on to reveal to Deku his big secret, which is that he died at the age of 40, but the cause of his death was old age. Understandably, Deku is shocked to hear this as it doesn't quite make sense. But Shinomori continues saying that he lived as a hermit in the woods training with One For All because he knew at the time it wasn't strong enough to defeat All For One. So he trained it up as much as he could, planning to eventually pass it on. However, in his 18th year of possession, the quirk broke his body. And it's here where he reveals that One For All slowly but surely burns away the life force of its current user. There are a few things to break down from this. The first of which is the fact that Shinomori mentions, with the exception of All Might, he has held on to One For All the longest, possessing it for 18 years, which shows just how little time each of the users actually had with the power. There's also the point that when Shinomori says the quirk broke his body, he points to the scar on his face, suggesting that it was actually One For All that caused it. Now you may be thinking, but One For All stealing life doesn't make sense. All Might pushed the quirk to its absolute limit, and he had possession of the ability since he was a child. Well, that's exactly what Deku asks. Questioning the previous users, Deku brings forward the point of All Might. If it killed you, how could he have lived for so long? The first user then responds saying, well, that's exactly the point they were getting at. Initially, they believed the length of time a person could possess One For All was connected to some invisible limit of power each of them could withstand. However, after looking into it more, they realized that there is a specific trait All Might possesses which separates him from all of the previous users. He is quirkless. It's revealed that if a person already possesses a quirk before receiving One For All, eventually the power will consume their body and they will die. But if a person has no quirk, their body adjusts to the new power and accepts it as if it was always their quirk in the first place. Holy crap! This changes so much. All those talks about what if this person got the quirk, what if that person got the quirk? Yeah, well guess what? They would have died. Dear God, this makes me so much more happier about how the Heroes Rising movie ended. You get to live another day, Baku boy! But it also poses a question about Shigaraki. If he was to steal One For All, would it actually end up killing him? Or is the quirk All For One already killing him and he just doesn't know it yet? But anyway, the first user then goes on to explain that this theory about One For All was confirmed when All For One invaded the quirk and mentioned how the vestiges we see of people inside are the manifestation of a person's quirk and consciousness. This brought up the point, if that's the case, then how come All Might can appear if he's quirkless? The answer is All Might inherited One For All as his own, essentially making it his true quirk. Think of it like this. Each person is a cup, and their quirk is the liquid inside their cup. Since All Might was born quirkless, his cup is empty. However, when he gained One For All, his quirk was filled with its liquid. Make sense? It is also mentioned that the vestige of All Might in this realm is actually a copy of the real All Might's subconscious, and as a result, it relays anything All Might has learned in the real world directly to the other users. Although, even with all of this new information, the first user does say that they still don't fully understand all of the implications involving All Might's vestige and One For All adapting to an inheritor's quirk, meaning that there are still a lot more questions that need to be answered. After this, the first user goes on to tell Midoriya that because of One For All's effect on people who are naturally born with a quirk, he can't risk passing it on to anyone who isn't quirkless. However, with each generation, less and less children are being born quirkless. In fact, it was an absolute miracle that Midoriya, another quirkless person, received One For All in the first place. And it's here where Midoriya gets hit with the bombshell. Because there may be no successor to pass the quirk onto, Midoriya is potentially the last successor of One For All. Woo! This chapter has thrown absolutely everything we've known about One For All on its head. God damn! First we have number 2 and 3 over here staring at walls and acting all weird and stuff. Then we get the truth about the 4th user, who actually seems to be a pretty nice guy. And now we get hit with this? What a chapter! And just when you think you've seen everything, the chapter comes to an end with Nana Shimura coming out and saying, now that the main topic is discussed, Izuku, are you able to kill Tomura Shigaraki for me? What the fuck? All in all, this was a pretty heavy chapter. There was a lot of dialogue, and everything that was said affects the story in a very big way. Look, I knew Midoriya was going to talk to the previous users this chapter, but I was not expecting this. Although, I will point out the fact that Nana Shimura says Tomura Shigaraki and not Tenko Shimura, which could be hinting that she doesn't actually want Deku to kill Shigaraki himself, just a person he's become. Or she could be saying to straight up murder her grandson. But let me know what you think of this chapter. If you liked this video, don't forget to leave a like and comment what you think is going to happen next. For more My Hero content, subscribe to the Lunchtime crew. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Plus Ultra.